Welcome back to Boston Public Radio. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live from the Doubletree Hotel in frigid downtown Manchester, New Hampshire for the primary, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Joining us, Congressman Dean Phillips from the 3rd District of Minnesota. He's running in the Democratic primary against incumbent President Joe Biden. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Marjorie, good to be with you. And by the way, this is not frigid. I'm a Minnesotan.
Guy.
Speak for yourself,
This is a heat wave, my friends.
Yeah, well, you're lucky. We were all freezing out waiting, watching the people in the line for the Trump rally the other night. But anyway, we're one day away here, Congressman. So what's a win for you tomorrow? What does success look like?
You know, Marjorie, it's already been a win. I'm practicing democracy. I've had the most extraordinary 90 days of my life. I've been reinvigorated about our great country. I've met people with the most beautiful stories, the most heartbreaking stories, and I showed up. And that was my mission, is to demonstrate that in this country we do not do coronations, we have competitions. And the practice of democracy is very strong here in the Granite State, and I want people to know that. As for tomorrow night, to get to your question, we started at 0 with no name recognition just 10 weeks ago, and the latest tracking poll has us about 32%. If I thought we could hit the 20s, that would have been remarkable. So that's still my goal, and I think that will demonstrate that this is a viable campaign. But most of all, I think the numbers that should be looked at are those of President Biden, a man I respect and have admired. I do not believe he should be running. I think it's a dereliction of duty. And an incumbent president, as Bill Clinton got 84% in his reelect, Barack Obama 81% right here, I think we should be looking at those numbers. If he's in the 50s or 60s, that's a pretty good indication that American voters are ready to move on.
What's wrong with Joe Biden that is right with you, other than age, Congressman?
Well, I think, first of all, I think there is a generational issue. I don't need to delve into that. Most Americans have made up their mind. I think both men, by the way, in that conversation, it should be conflated. One is going to be 78 and one is going to be 82. You know, there's not a big difference. My focus is turning the page to a new generation. We have an issue of crisis of costs in this country. The heartbreaking stories right here in the Granite State. People cannot afford their home heating oil, their food and fuel. They cannot afford their health care expenses. 2/3 of bankruptcies in this country are from medical debt. Housing, I know that we all know there's homelessness in most big cities in this country, but to see veterans sleeping outside here in Manchester in Veterans Park, we have a crisis. We have an issue at the southern border. I'm a Democrat who is telling you the truth. I've been there twice. This president has not done what this country needs and the chief executive should do, which is to secure our country. We spend $1 trillion on our Pentagon budget, and we have thousands of people pouring across the border, most of them great people. But these are issues that are not being solved. And lastly, I am a representative of a new generation that understands how artificial intelligence will be impacting our economy, disruptive, 40% of jobs probably. And I just don't think these are either men of the capacity to handle the problems that are coming down the pipeline. And that's my proposition.
Congressman, we're on the radio every day, and in Massachusetts, a blue state. We have a lot of listeners from New Hampshire, too, and we get hundreds of texts from people, Democrats, who aren't thrilled with Joe Biden either, but they are borderline hysterical about Trump being reelected. So if you, as you talked about, go to this no labels deal, if things don't work out as you hope in the Democratic side, any small number of votes on the no label side or from RFK Jr. or anybody else could mean Donald Trump becomes the next president. So you're a scary person to those who are worried about that.
Marjorie, that's a misportrayal. I'm running as a Democrat. That's the whole point. I'm trying to demonstrate to Democrats that we have to do better if we hope to win. Joe Biden I respect, but here's the truth. He has the lowest approval numbers in American history. He is 3 points below where Donald Trump was at the same stage of his presidency. He's 9 points below Barack Obama at the same stage. He is behind in every single battleground state, and I believe Americans have made up their mind. He is not electable. That is why we should be having a competition. I'm a proud Democrat, have been a lifelong Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat, and I intend to win. Let me just finish about no labels. What I've said about no labels is they have positioned themselves as what they call the backup plan. They don't want Trump to be president. And all I'm telling people to do is pay attention to the fact that they could also help prevent that from happening. I intend to win the Democratic nomination. Is it a long shot? Darn right. But I think tomorrow might be the beginning of something. But my message to everybody listening is I am not the threat. The threat is actually Joe Biden. He cannot win, Marjorie. And if people paid attention to the data, we would recognize the best way forward is to actually have a thoughtful competition. I'm here to invite other candidates still to join the stage. All these are tiptoeing around it. Governor Newsom, Governor Whitmer, so many other names. You know them. I've invited them for the last number of months. They won't jump into the race, and I think that is not meeting this
But Congressman,
American
to be clear,
moment.
let's take you out of the mix. You would agree that a progressive Democrat running on the No Labels platform would croak Joe Biden, even if Joe
Absolutely.
Okay, fine.
Let's make it really not only a progressive Democrat, a Joe Manchin, a Larry Hogan, anybody,
Former Republican
yes,
governor. of
anybody
Maryland,
who would
so-
run on that ticket that would draw votes from the Democratic nominee and hand the election to Donald Trump, I'm opposed to. All I'm saying to Democrats who are paying attention is if we nominate Joe Biden, the only way to prevent Donald Trump from winning is a no labels ticket that would have someone that would draw votes from Donald Trump. That is the truth.
Congressman, two of your more prominent supporters are Bill Ackman and Sasquatch. We're not going to talk about Sasquatch, but we will.
We
Just
call him Bigfoot, but you can
watch
call
it,
him
whatever you
Sasquatch,
want to
yeah.
call him. Bill Ackman, we know quite well in Boston. Obviously, led the charge against Claudine Gay. You've heard this 1,000 times. DEI was a headline on your website. It became Equity and Restorative Justice roughly at the same time that he made a large contribution to a super PAC. You deny there was any connection. So let's forget that. What do you think about what Ackman did to Claudine Gay?
Well, let me say this, that I'm really saddened by what's going on in this country. We have so many people who are litigating slogans and not focused on solutions. And, Mr. Ackman is one of many thousands of people with whom I interact. By the way, on the subject you just brought up, my congressional website has long said equity and civil rights. All I did is change my campaign website to say equity and restorative justice, because that is a better representation of what I'm about. By the way, not a single word has changed on my actual
But
policy.
it was an odd coincidence in
I
time,
understand.
was it not?
Well, and here's why. I believe in diversity. I believe in equity. I believe in inclusion. I think everybody listening probably does as well. What I was not aware of is when you put those three words together, that is a real divisive thing right now. And I'm trying to be inclusive and point out my policy propositions, and I didn't change a word, so I just want to make that clear. And what happened to Claudine Gay, I will tell you that as someone who has long had faith in our higher institutions of higher learning, what I saw on display at that testimony in Congress was appalling. And I'm saddened by the outcome of what has transpired, but I do think it's time that we have a conversation about what is going on, perhaps in schools and on college campuses. But I'm saddened by the litigation of slogans. I want to move on.
Sorry, who
to
was
solutions.
appalling, Stefanik or the three presidents?
Well, I think the president's responses to a very simple question. Look, I'm a Jewish man. I believe deeply, by the way, in the state of Israel and its security and safety. I believe deeply in the Palestinian cause of self-determination and a state, and I hope to recognize that state as president. But their answers to a very simple question to me were appalling, considering their leadership roles in this country. And I understand why people see this differently, but I do believe what I saw there was not just disappointing, deeply appalling.
We have 15 seconds. What's the key to the best gelato?
The key to the best, you know what?
15 seconds.
The key to the best
Yeah,
gelato
I'm listening.
is a big spoon.
Okay.
Congressman, it's a pleasure to meet you. Good luck
Thank
tomorrow.
you, Jim. Thank you,
so
Marjorie.
much.
Be well.
Thank you
Appreciate
very,
it.
very much for joining us. I wish you good luck tomorrow, and
you.
I appreciate your time.
Keep the faith.
We have been speaking with Dean Phillips, three-term Democratic congressman from Minnesota, who is challenging Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination for president. Congressman, thanks again.